Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Welcome back to #AskRobCo. This is the last week on a Thursday. Next week we will be back in the usual slot, 1 p.m. Wednesday. Reason for the change of day, I've been traveling. My day job is visiting all the banks and lenders across the property world. So I've been traveling throughout Europe, seeing all of the banks and the lenders. Just as an update for some of you, travel is pretty okay. Everyone has to wear masks, but apart from that, everything was pretty smooth and pretty good. Got out safely, got back safely, and all very positive. Okay, so we've got some good stuff for you today. For those of you that haven't been here previously, you put your questions in the question slot. So on the right-hand side, you see the box, it says questions. You type the questions. James and myself will discuss and give you the answers. Any topic, any subject, sales, rentals, risk, LTVs, pricing, stimulus, bounce, transactions, uncertainty, HMOs, buy-to-let, super prime, prime, inside London, outside London, LTVs, interest rates, credit, risk, all the areas that you want to talk about, please put in the question, everything you want to hear discussed, and we will give you the answers. At the same time, we do data and intel. Every week we're updating you. We've got some brilliant data today, and I am going to go straight into that. So if you go to your handout section and you go into handout number 5, which is 16 weeks post lockdown, some really good data for you this week. So I'm really excited to run through this. Every week we go through the data. If you go to the 6th of July line, and you will see that's highlighted in the darker blue, not turquoise, and you will see week 27, and then you'll see column sales instructions, record sales instructions for the year, the number being 713, 713. That is the highest amount of new instructions for properties the entire year, on the back of the stamp duty, stimulus, holiday, on the back of us being in lockdown for the 6 weeks or 8 weeks that we were, on the back of some positivity and bounce coming to the market. 713 properties came on over the last week, which in turn has allowed for a good amount of properties going under offer. Again, 429 is the record amount of properties under offer this year so far. So most instructions, most under offers. And I think in time, and again, it will take a few weeks to play out, what we are going to see is we're going to see very strong numbers of properties sold. Yes, the number at 123 is slightly down on previous weeks, but as a mean over the year, it's more or less there or a tiny bit below. So those numbers are good, but I do expect, on the back of the figures we're seeing here, of record new instructions, 713, of record under offers for this year, 429. I'm really expecting them to turn into sales, which is one of the most important things, going back to the RICS market uncertainty clause, which a lot of you in the risk and sanction teams on this call always ask the question, always want to know what's going on there. One of the biggest areas is we need sales completions. The more sales completions that come through, the quicker the market uncertainty clause can be dropped. Thus, you get more certainty because the evidence being used on the valuations is more up to date because of the transactions that are going through. Any questions, please, relating to this, please type now. We do want to get through all your questions. The earlier we get them in, the easier it is for us to get through them. On the box on the right-hand side, type in your question, we'll give you the answer. Anything you want to understand about new instructions, under offers, sold, or fall through rate, withdrawn rate. And when we look at the column, just want to repeat the numbers for the 2, 3, 5, 10 million sales, the 84, 46, 22, 3 are the monthly figures, and they're really close now to being what they were the 3 months before lockdown, and we're really hopefully getting back to consistency across the marketplace. So really positive numbers this week, really great development there. Any questions related to this data? This is live, it's on the ground, it's what we're seeing as valuers. We're doing the work, we're seeing the transactions, we're then relating it to the intel and data that we're providing to you, so you know what is happening. This is really positive. If you have any questions relating to this, anything you don't understand, want to discuss it further, please ask your question now. Further insight into this is that under offers and sales on a like-for-like basis, year on year, are getting very close. So virtually under offers a year ago compared to now is virtually the same. Sales going through exchanges are lower, but I expect that to, as the weeks go by, because of the volume that's coming on, I expect that to return to normal levels in the short term. And also prices achieved, this is really, really, really interesting. Under offers have achieved slightly higher pricing than what they did like for like a year ago, whereas the exchanges are a tiny bit down, and a tiny bit, we're talking about 1%, 2%, really nominal. So all of you wanting to know that information for underwriting, for sales, for credit, for risk, the numbers that are starting to come through now and feed through in the data and the intel is good, it's positive, and we just need to see that trend continue, because we are seeing maybe 10%, 15% more instructions than we saw this time last year, and that can only be a good thing moving forward. Let's do a recap with James on stamp duty now, 1 week on. Let's just have a recap with James, where we're at and what we're seeing.
Thank you, Rob. Some great data there. So just to recap, basically, as most of you know, the threshold has increased on stamp duty, up from £125,000 up to now £500,500. This benefit will include those second home buyers. However, they will be still subject to the stamp duty surcharge of 3%. This initiative lasts until the end of March 2021. So there's around 9 months for buyers to really sort of capitalise and sort of benefit from this stamp duty holiday. This initiative goes further than assisting those first-time buyers, which I think in the 2017 budget had relief on the first £300,000 on purchase if they were buying up to a £500,000 property. So it goes further than having just first-time buyers to helping and fueling the whole market and adding to that bounce that we've seen in the last few weeks. Stamp duty land tax is due within 14 days of you transacting on a property. So those which have exchanged but not yet completed could still benefit from the stamp duty holiday government initiative. Just some sort of headline statistics which have been given so far is that as 9 out of 10 main residence buyers will pay no stamp duty, according to the Chancellor. There'll be an average saving for buyers of around £4,000, and then should a buyer acquire property of £500,000, that would give a saving of just over £14,000. So there's big savings we have on stamp duty here, which hopefully, like we mentioned, will create that balance. It will bring people back to the market and hopefully give us that balance in moving into Q3 2020. Like we mentioned last week, is this going to bring some investors back to the market, some institutional landlords? It's very much positive signs at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the instructions that we've seen over the last week, there is no coincidence that suddenly stamp duty holidays brought in a great incentive to the marketplace across the board, even if the biggest effect is obviously at the lower bracket. And I'd probably call a million and below, call that core market. And core market is the market that will get the most benefit. And to get all the instructions, and I can see that you're asking questions, where is this affecting the most? Which part of the market are we going to see that change? The fact that so many instructions have come on shows that already the stamp duty change has created an impetus and has created a bounce of activity. And we are definitely going to see that activity relate to under offers, and we're going to see that relate to sales. And that's going to be the message I'm going to be telling you every week for the next quarter, maybe even 2 quarters, whilst we see out the stamp duty. So without question, James, what we're seeing here is that loads of properties across the country are coming on the market. There's a lot of volume there, lots of under offers. That the biggest week that we've seen in the whole of 2020, and let's really be clear, 2020 started off phenomenally. January and February were superb months in the marketplace. Residential across the UK, prime and super prime was performing superbly. Buy-to-lets and HMOs were doing extremely well, and only when lockdown hit did we see that climb down. What we're seeing on the ground at the moment is that residential market is really performing across the UK. There's loads of supply now coming on stream, and there is demand, and there's great product. And I think we're going to, one of the next questions is relating to LTV updates. Great product on the market. We're seeing so many HMOs and buy-to-let because that's the attractive part at the moment, where you're getting guaranteed or good income stream in safe places to get your best revenue, and you're seeing really strong product. And I think, James, we're just going to answer that question and go straight into the product, because that is influencing purchaser demand on the back of supplier demand that's coming on stream.
Yeah, so on the main back to the stamp duty holiday, for this to really be a success, buyers have to have available finance to enable and facilitate those transactions to take place. So Metro Bank this week has reintroduced their 90% LTV mortgage. Just to give you some headline facts on that, it's a 5-year fixed rate product at 3.29%. It has a maximum value of 600,000 and requires a physical inspection from a surveyor, something which now is, with the lockdown easing and enabling surveyors for us to physically inspect, has coincided with that. This new product follows on from nationwide 90% LTV product, which they launched last week, which is coming live from the 20th of July, I believe. However, that is currently exclusively available for first-time buyers. But just to underline the importance of some of these sort of positive moves by lenders, enabling buyers to have that available finance, really facilitate the property market to bounce and those transactions to take place.
Great, thanks for that. I know lots of you are asking about product. Product reacts to demand. So those of you that are on product, pricing, risk, sanction, credit on the call, or even sales, adapting your model around the core market, which is going to see a huge demand now. So core market that gets the discount from the stamp duty, or gets the best benefit of the discount. And then you've got your HMO and buy-to-let, as James has just mentioned, that we're getting a lot of activity in that space where confidence is in the market, and there is a lot of investor demand, but only in the right product, in the right space, not across the board. That's where you've got to have the right pricing, the right product to reflect the demand as well as the supply that's coming on stream. What's the next question you've got, James?
So there's record levels of first-time buyers in the market. We've seen this over the last 12 months, and since the government initiative of Help to Buy, that's helped 150,000 buyers take their first step onto the property ladder, which the government has put in £40 billion of government-backed support to facilitate that, with Help to Buy remaining a key factor in the market. Really sort of underpinning some demand, especially for new build properties. So that will hopefully really complement the stamp duty holiday at the moment and facilitate even more first-time buyers to enter the market. And that's, again, alongside those finance products which are being made available by those lenders we just mentioned. One thing that is coming under pressure at the moment, the construction pipeline of new homes needs to continue, and the delivery of these homes needs to take place to make sure there's adequate supply and there's no shortages in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first-time buyer market supported with Help to Buy, and I think it was something like 150,000 of those and 350,000 first-time buyers. I think record numbers for at least over a decade, which now, on the back of the stamp duty holiday, will further push developers in that space, especially the new builds, both for investors but also for first-time buyers, and Help to Buy. So everything up to 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, really incentivized now to, if you're a buyer, to go out there and get record low lending with your 85, 90% product, with your help from the government with the Help to Buy. It's really, really attractive to get your foot on the ladder. And as I said last week, the property ladder is a food chain, a food cycle that when the 0 to 500 functions well, the 500,000 to 1 million works, the 1 to 2 million works, feeds up to the 5 to 10 million, and your property ecosystem works to the best of its ability, and suddenly you've got transactions at all levels that really feeds into the transactional path that we're seeing. And I think that's massively important. So if you've got a hierarchy or a triangle of transactions where the bottom part, the 0 to 500,000, I think we mentioned it last week, represents something along the lines of 98% of all transactions. I'll come back to you on the exact number for that. But if that's the case, and then you're feeding up to the 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 million plus, if the foundation is right and you've got the volume there, which you will definitely have, the numbers and the data are telling us, that's going to be improving. I'm really looking forward to see the mortgage approvals and the sales figures that we've been following every week. They're going to be released in the next 7 to 10 days. When they get released, I'm really confident that we're going to see it climbing from those bottoms of 35, 40,000 that were 10-year record lows from 08, 09 to 2020 now. I'm convinced we're going to see them climb because the data, the intel, the daily stats we're seeing are telling us that's the direction it's heading, and we're going to get more and more normalized quite quickly as the stimulus starts to take effect. Next question, James.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Rob, the stamp duty land tax, the monetary receipts that the government would ordinarily receive are going to be severely hit. However, the multiplier effect of these transactions, the money sort of changing hands, is going to have a great impact for the economy. But in the last week or so, the Chancellor has requested a review of the capital gains tax sort of initiatives and the way those tax receipts are collected. It has been mooted that there could be a raid on the sort of primary homeowner exemption, which, I mean, that is worth reported £26.7 billion, according to the Audit Office. A staggering amount of money, but is that going to be the sort of makeshift for those sort of stamp duty, land tax, monetary receipts, which will be missing the next 9 months or so?
I think that's a brilliant one. Like, where is the money going to come from? Where are the receipts going to come from? Wealth, stealth, the money needs to be made up from somewhere. So is there a hidden tax or charge that we're going to see further down the line? Normally when you do have such a thing, it's always the upper tier of the market that generally gets the hit in that space. So I think it's something for everyone to be aware of at this moment in time. Is there going to be a tax or a charge that's going to come in to make up for the loss of receipts and revenue because of the stamp duty holiday? Or is it that there's going to be increased volume, especially on the 500,000 plus, that hopefully will create such demand that will overtake historical numbers in terms of the last, call it 12 months, that maybe they can make up receipts there. But I think that's a warning sign, a wealth stealth warning sign here, that something could come into play to make up that difference. And I think that's a question mark. Let's be positive and let's believe that the volume of sales itself is going to be able to create a difference, and maybe it's going to be watch this space. Last few minutes, anyone that hasn't written their question, send it in now. Anything we haven't touched, please send it to us now. I'm just going to throw the poll to understand what you want to see us talk about next week. Next week, we're back Wednesday, 1 p.m. usual time, #AskRobCo, every Wednesday. Please fill in the poll to tell us what you want us to be talking about. Send in your last questions before we close out for today. Again, thank you everyone for coming every week. Thank you everyone for your support. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for turning up. James, what have you got last question of the week before we close out?
Last question. So hopefully the stamp duty holiday could bring back a lot of investors, buy-to-let sort of property landlords back to the market. However, one sort of sub-market within that is the student letting market, and there's been sort of, how will that be impacted with the sort of people attending university, more online teaching? Is there going to be the sort of social migration that we spoke about? And it was just sort of a question how we think that market might evolve, or how might that change?
So I really think this is a big one. I think the three areas that we've been discussing are permitted development, changes, office to resi, or now other areas of commercial to resi, high street to resi, retail to resi. Student accommodation patterns going to be changing, courses online, and working patterns in offices. I've seen an article this morning how the land is changing in the office market in London. The big corporates are going to have less office space, more people will be working from home. So the three areas you've got there are permitted development, change of use. For commercial to resi, you've then got student accommodation, maybe less students renting a campus because styles of education are going to be changing, so they could be more homebound. Does that affect return on that product? Or overseas investors, stroke overseas students, not as many coming to the UK. Does that mean there's less demand for student accommodation? That's a massive question mark for the commercial people and buy to rent on the call. And the office market, with patterns changing, is there going to be larger voids, lower rents, and more pressure in that space? Those three spaces, high street included, we're going to have to watch week by week by week by week for all of the commercial people on the call. That is the big area of question mark that we really have to see how it develops. Student accommodation changes because of online learning and less foreign students coming in and people staying at home rather than taking accommodation. High street, change of use, office, change of use to resi. We're going to see more of that, hopefully allowing developers to get more projects and product without having to go through so many planning challenges. And then finally, the office space market, rents probably going to decline as less space is required, and how that impacts on the commercial investment market and investment product. That's wait and see. At the moment, we're seeing huge residential interest. That's where the demand is. So that's where the stimulus has come in at the most. We need to see where the commercial stimulus is going to come in. Then we'll see that further down the line, whether it's rates, support for the high street, etc., etc., etc. That's where we're going to see it, but we're going to have to watch this space. Thanks for all your questions this week. Really appreciate it. Thanks for James. Great support, great assistance, great knowledge, great data. Hope you love the data in Intel this week. The sales information is great. Please come back next week, #AskRobCo. Anyone that misses it or wants to share it with your colleagues, we're on YouTube now, #AskRobCo. You can watch every edition at home, whenever you want, when you're going to bed, get you to sleep. Please keep asking the questions, please keep returning. Have a safe weekend ahead, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining.
Thanks all.